Hello. So last time I talked about my cancer diagnosis and that I had the first call back from the first mammogram where they said they were pretty sure that they'd found cancer, and I had 5 biopsies, and then a week later I had the results of the biopsies and they were clear. So for a moment I was very relieved, but it was a very short-lived relief because they said that the results of the biopsy didn't match the ultrasound and the mammogram, so they needed to do more. So I went back and I had 8 biopsies taken. And I remember that day very clearly, more than the first one, because obviously I'd had a week to sort of get used to the idea. But even then I was still in denial. I was like, they've made a mistake, they've made a mistake, they've made a mistake. This isn't true, this is not happening to me. And it was happening to me. And I remember very clearly, and I don't know the right name for the doctor who was doing the biopsies and the ultrasounds. And I mean, biopsies themselves are traumatic. I just certainly never had one before. I didn't know what to expect. And I was like, but you know what? She said, we're 99% certain that you have a cancer. And she showed me, she was very good. She showed me on the screen the ultrasound and why the white, what just looked like little white dots to me, and why that was an area of concern for them, and why they didn't believe the biopsies. And I kept saying, yeah, but what if these come back clear? What happens then? And she said, we still won't believe that, so we'll send you for an MRI. That didn't happen. But I do remember that day and the first time that when it was first happening, I asked, how did this happen to me? Is it something I did? Is this because I previously smoked? That's what kept going through my mind, albeit I was not a heavy smoker. And on the first time I went, and on this occasion, the doctor, the nurse, all said, no, this is just bad luck. It's nothing you've done. And I was going, oh God. So I didn't do this to myself. And they were like, no, we have had people in exactly the same position as you who've never drank, never smoked, do loads of exercise, eat really clean. And conversely, we've had people who've got the worst lifestyle and they never get cancer. So it's nothing you've done, it's completely random. There was something about that just didn't sit well with me. And I'm not saying I did this to myself, but what I mean by that is, if it was just bad luck and it was just completely random, what that said to me was, there is nothing I can do to stop this happening to me again. And that terrified me. That thought absolutely terrified me. Because if there was nothing that I could do, that meant I was just going to be a victim, and I'd just basically be sitting prey. And this kept going over in my mind. And that doctor, as I was sitting there with my head in my hands, she said to me, I need you to wrap your head around what's happening so that when you come back next week and you get your results, you can ask the right questions. And she said, but I need you to understand this is what's happening. And it was on that day. And at that point, I didn't know what was going to come back in those results. I didn't know if it was going to come back, what it would be, how serious it would be, what treatment plan. I didn't know if it had spread, if I'd need chemotherapy. I didn't know what kind of breast cancer it was. I mean, they said it was small. They said it was, I think they said very small, likely grade 1, stage 1. And I think they said 8 millimeters by 8 millimeters, I think. And I think that's what they said. Was it 2 centimetres? I'm going to have to look all of this up. And I've blocked some of it. Looked it up. It was 18 by 16 millimetres. And so I decided there and then, that day, I couldn't go through that again. Well, obviously I can't categorically say I can't do that. But there was something in me that said, I will do everything in my power to not have this happen to me again. And I don't know what that looks like. I had no idea what that meant. I just know that that day there was something in me. I don't know what it was, instinct, the will to survive, fire in your belly, whatever people call it. But that anger, strength, I will not be a victim. Yes, I'll have the treatment, whatever that looks like. Surgery, radiotherapy, I wasn't sure I felt about chemo. Yes, I will follow the advice, and I'll put myself in the hands of the NHS for this. But I am responsible for this. I'm not handing my body over and stopping having any accountability. I am accountable, and I am responsible for me, for my body, what I put in it, what I put on it, what I think about, my thoughts, how I talk about this. And I think from that moment I thought, I am now invested in transforming myself and my life. And what happens over the next few months, a large part of that will be about my mindset and how I choose to deal with this, because I thought I choose, that was important for me, those words of, I will not be a victim. I'm taking my power back. I know what's best for me. I am not a medical expert, but I am the best expert on myself and how I feel. And I've made a lot of mistakes in the past, and I thought, this is my time. I saw this as some people say they get a tap on the shoulder. I saw this as, whoever you want to say, the universe, your higher self was knocking me over to say, you need to change, and you need to change a lot of stuff. And that's what I've done ever since, and it's an evolving journey. And I hadn't even had my results at this point, but it was that day that I made a conscious decision. This isn't about me handing myself over to the NHS and just coming out the other side and getting on that roller coaster, that treadmill, that machine. I need to wake up. And I need to start with my mindset. And I think that's where everything I'd learned with TMS, I didn't know it when I was learning about TMS, but it was the big part of TMS is mindset, a shift in mindset. And that is what was going to serve me very well, and has served me well, and still serves me very well. And so I went back the following week. I got my results. I met with my surgeon, Miss Shelley Potter. Amazing, couldn't have been in better hands. And I was 16 by 18 millimetres. They said, sorry, I knew that after when they'd done, I was going to need a lumpectomy. It was grade 1, stage 1. It wasn't in the lymph, so it didn't look like it spread, which meant didn't need chemotherapy. I would need a wide excision lumpectomy in the right breast. That was then scheduled for the 28th of April, 2023. And I delayed it by a week because I wanted to have the previous weekend to celebrate my husband's birthday. He thought I was mad. I said 1 week won't make any difference. And it was a Friday when I had the surgery, and then it would be followed up with radiotherapy, albeit depending on what they found when they looked at the tumour when it was removed in surgery, and how many lymph they might have to take out during surgery but I'll cover that on another. So that was the beginning of my journey, and yeah, I think that's all for now.